Alrighty, so welcome to this makeshift edition of the MLS Decision Day review. As I mentioned before, I'm currently here in Minneapolis because I just went to the Minnesota United versus Vancouver Whitecaps game on Decision Day, and I'll talk a little bit about what happened in that game in the next video, because like I also said before, I'm going to be splitting these Decision Day review into two videos. In this video, I'll talk about the Eastern Conference game, and the other video, I'll talk about the Western Conference game. And also, for those of you that is wondering, no, I am actually not tired just yet. It's actually only 9:32 right now at the time of this recording here in Minneapolis, but maybe when we get to the Western Conference game and talk about those games, I maybe be a little bit fatigued because I've been up since 8 in the morning, and that I maybe will feel that fatigue a little bit. But I guess you can maybe treat that as like an MLS After Dark, because after all, it is now nighttime, and I guess maybe we'll pretend this review is kind of like an MLS After Dark kind of review. But in terms of this Decision Day game, this Decision Day, well, I feel like maybe I kind of hyped up this Decision Day a little bit too much, because we definitely did not see as crazy as what we saw in the last Decision Day. We didn't see the drama that we saw in the last Decision Day, where there's like a last-second goal that basically put a team into the playoff. But what we did see is definitely some shuffling in terms of the standings, and also some history that is made in some of these games, and also a couple of guys scoring their first career MLS goal on the final day of the season. But let's actually talk about the first game, which is New England versus the Chicago Fire. And also, the other reason why I said I'm maybe a little bit tired is that I'm going to have to hold on to this board, as I don't really find a good support area on this couch where I can just kind of hold the board here. And also, not to mention, I have to also watch this phone most of the time. Well, not most of the time, but all the time, because of me writing all the notes here on the board. But as I said, we're going to first talk about some of these games that didn't really have any playoff implication, or any home field advantage implication, or even the top seed implication, because that's all the implication that we got in the Eastern Conference Decision Day. And the first one, New England versus the Chicago Fire, this is a game that both of these teams are eliminated, but for a game that between both of these teams that have been eliminated, there was kind of a bit of a late drama in this one. So first of all, this game was played at SeatGeek Stadium, which is kind of odd because the Chicago Bears weren't playing at Soldier Field. So I don't know why exactly this game was not played at Soldier Field. And I know for a fact that the Chicago Bears is not playing at Soldier Field this week, because they're literally just playing at the Minnesota Vikings today. And I was actually very tempted to go to that one alongside with the Minnesota United versus Whitecaps game. So it's kind of weird the fact that they did not play their final game at Soldier Field. But early on, there was a big opportunity for Gustavo Bo as he missed a sitter in the back post, and I immediately wrote, that just sums up the Revs season. I mean, it's just been a miserable season for the Revs, and that big opportunity that he had almost gave his team a 1-0 lead. Then Brady made his first MLS save, denying Veroni from the near post. Chris Brady, of course, making his first start for the Chicago Fire. And this is kind of the case with a lot of games that doesn't have a lot of implication. You start seeing a lot of head coaches decide to maybe play some of their backups, or maybe even give some of these kids a chance to get some minutes, and Chris Brady basically had the opportunity to do so, and he actually did do very well throughout this game. But I thought the Revs started the better side early in this one. Shaqiri blasted high from long range before Petrovic denied Durant in the front post, and I thought all of a sudden, despite the fact that the Revs were the better team in the first couple of minutes, Chicago looked like they were knocking on the door for the opening goal. But we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 0-0. But in the second half, Brady would deny Veroni from the near post before he denied Bo from close range, and once again, the Revs started the second half the better side and was looking for the opener. Little did we know that we would have almost the exact same thing that happened in the first half, where the Chicago Fire were knocking on the door for the opener. First, it was Petrovic denying, and actually it's not Veroni. I wrote the wrong notes. It's actually Durant from long range here in the 66th minute before he robbed Shaqiri as he was falling on the ground to try to make a save there. And again, the second half, it felt like a carbon copy of the first. The Fire was really pushing to get the opening goal. Durant had a chance to do so, but he puts one into the supporter section before Mueller hits one straight to Petrovic. And just as we thought that maybe this game would not any playoff implication in between two teams that have already been eliminated, and it would be only a fitting way for both of them to end in a 0-0 draw. We got the opening goal in the 88th minute, and what a goal this was from Dylan Barrero. He scored an absolute golazo there from Brandon Bai. Speaking of golazo, we had some very amazing goal that was scored this week, and obviously this week I think there's going to be one last goal of the week kind of contention to be won, and I'll tell you what, this might be one of the toughest week to do so, because there was so many amazing goals and amazing banger that was scored on this decision day, and this is just one of many that I'll talk about in this review and also in the review of the Western Conference game. But yeah, that gives the Revs a 1-0 lead, but unfortunately that lead would be short-lived, because in the second minute of stoppage time, Monis would score his first career MLS goal here to make it get 1-1 in this one, and this was really just a mix-up from Petrovic and Omar Gonzalez. They kind of got into each other way, but Monis will take it, because he just came off the bench in this one. Again, another young kid coming out from the Fire Academy, getting a chance in this one, and he took full advantage of it, and certainly a goal that he will remember for a very long time. And even though you're not going to be a guy that maybe will have a lot of minutes for the team, if you're able to grab a couple of minutes, you want to take advantage of it, and Monis definitely took advantage of that, coming off the bench, making his first start, and immediately scoring a goal there. So yeah, that ties it up at 1 apiece, and that would actually turns out to be the final score in this game, as the shots in this one, 14 shots with a 12 that New England has. Both teams had 5 shots on goal, 6 shots off target with a 5 that New England has, 3 shots that was blocked with a 2 that New England has, and in terms of possession, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that New England has in this game. And by the way, as I'll talk about in the Western Conference preview, where there's also one of the games that had no playoff implication, and it's between two teams that have already eliminated, both of them actually end up in a draw, which is similar to what happened last season, when we also had that one game that had both teams that's already eliminated, and they're facing off against each other, and it ends in a draw. So there's just something about these games that when you involve teams that's eliminated, for a way to end what has been a disappointing season, it just has to end in a draw, and that's kind of the case in this one for New England. Of course, throwing away a lead here to try to end the season on a high note, and for the Chicago Fire, really didn't play well for most part of this game, but hey, they still salvage a 1-1 draw, even though technically they did draw points in this game, which again, I don't think they would really care, because this was a meaningless game for both of these teams. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match, and again, the only way I'm going to do the timestamp is I'll just write it down here. But the next one, we have Atlanta versus NYCFC, and now from now on, in terms of these review of the Eastern Conference game, there actually is something to play for. And for NYCFC, well, technically the only thing they need to play for is the third position to secure it, and that all they need is to get a win to secure that position. And they do. They get a 2-1 win in this one against Atlanta United, and they got off to a good start too, because in the 9th minute, Gabriel Pereira would score from Magno and Parks to get NYCFC a 1-0 lead. So dream start for NYCFC, a team that is looking to try to get some wins and maybe even get a win in this one to really trying to get themselves some momentum heading into the postseason. I feel like we're starting to see a little bit similar story with NYCFC. How remember last year when they make that MLS Cup run, and how they were able to make a very good winning streak down the stretch to really get hot into the playoffs. And while they didn't really have something similar to that compared to last season, at least they're winning, and in a way that they, if you're of course are able to get into the playoffs hot and able to get a couple of wins together, you can definitely head into the playoffs in the right direction. But that lead looked like it was going to be short-lived when Gutman looked for an instant response, but he just missed wide there. I mean, Andrew Gutman has started to become the most important attacker for this Atlanta side, and that is something that I didn't think I was ever going to say it, or at least that's not what I thought I was going to say in the beginning of the season, because for whatever reason, a guy that he's mostly been a fullback during his time with the Red Bulls and also with FC Cincinnati, he's not a guy that is known for goal scoring, and yet ever since he scored his first goal, he has been very of entrance. And in fact, as I look on the notes, yeah, he actually got on the score sheet one more time, and even I can tell when I look at the board here. But anyway, in the 19th minute, Acevedo almost give NYCFC the 2-0 lead, but he kissed a shot that, or he put a shot that kissed just outside of the post. Araujo then hits one right to Johnson, as it was a lively start for both of these teams. Araujo had another opportunity not long after I wrote that, but he puts it wide from close range. And then there was a shout for a penalty from NYCFC that was not giving. And then at the latter part of the first half, some very bad news for NYCFC, as Talles Magno actually had to be subbed off, and he was actually holding his right arm. Now, I'm not quite sure that he maybe dislocated his right arm, or maybe NYCFC was able to, pop that right arm back up, because, when you dislocate your shoulder, sometimes you can just like pop it back in and everything will be okay. But knowing the fact that he was definitely holding toward that right arm as he subbed off and was in a lot of pain, yeah, that's not great news if you're an NYCFC fan, because we know Talles Magno, as much as he hasn't really lived up to the potential that they bought him a couple of years back. He has definitely been a very, very important piece to this attack down the stretch, and losing him is definitely a bit of a loss, especially in that number 9 position. But anyway, Hebert was able to replace him in that spot. But we do head to halftime with NYCFC leading 1-0, and the second half, oh boy, Rios Novos, he almost made a goalkeeping howler here. He literally passed this one right to Keaton Parks, and Keaton Parks tried to chip him, but that one just missed a little bit wide. So yeah, Rios Novos has to be very thankful that Parks missed one, because if that one went in, yeah, that's not going to be a good look for Rocco Rios Novos, who, this game, I think it was really one of his last opportunity to prove this Atlanta staff that, he's probably going to be back next season. But after that kind of performance, yeah, maybe he's probably not going to be back with this team next year. But in the 50th minute, Morales puts it wide from close ranges. I thought it was a lively start for NYCFC, who was looking for a second goal. Parks would put a weak shot that was wide off the mark. But then in the 60th minute, Hebert would score here to make it 2-0 for NYCFC, as he scored here from Callens and Pereira to make it 2-0. So that's got to be great news if you're an NYCFC fan, because you want to get Hebert going on the attack, and they did exactly that. And by the way, I need to see if I can maybe find a pillow. I'm gonna use this laptop bag because my back is starting to kind of hurt a little bit, and I'm actually gonna try to sit back here and basically lean on the cushion while I continue to do this video. I don't even know why I didn't do that earlier, but either way, in the 67th minute, Atlanta would get one back, and as I mentioned, Andrew Goodman, a guy that ever since he scored his first career MLS goal, he's been a guy that is almost acting in like the most an attacker for him, and I'm not sure if that's something maybe Gonzalo Pineda has in mind in terms of putting him more forward. But yeah, he's been more involved in the attacking end, and he scored here from Amada and Araujo to make it 2-1 in this one. And then it looked like it was 3-1 in favor of NYCFC when Thiago Andrade scored there, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside, and then Johnson denied Goodman from the near post in the 81st minute. So here we go, Goodman again, a guy that he's been really transitioned into a guy that used to be known for more of a fullback kind of defensive minded player, to now being a guy that has been pushing more for almost acting like a wing back this latter part of the season. Though in the 85th minute, Martinez tried to score another spectacular bicycle goal, but he missed that one high. By the way, at the end of the game, when Joseph Martinez was looking, they were going to interview him of what could be his last game for Atlanta United. Yeah, it did not end up pretty, because Joseph Martinez, instead of answering any question, he basically told the interviewers that, yeah, you might as well just ask Gonzalo Pineda and also, oh God, I can't think of the Atlanta United GM. Sorry, oh, Carlos Bocanegra instead of him. And I think if that's what he, of course, says, that may be the sign that, yeah, his time with Atlanta United is clearly over. I mean, I know there's been speculation that maybe there's a chance he could return. No, I think the bridges have already been burned from the past couple of weeks, and that, again, I think Martinez won't be back with this team. And I'll tell you what, that would be probably the biggest free agent that has come in this off season, and it's getting to a point where I'm going to be interested to see where Joseph Martinez is going to go. Like, there's a question: is he going to stay in the league? Is he going to go elsewhere? I think he's going to stay in MLS, and that I think there's going to be definitely a big transfer saga involving where exactly Joseph Martinez is going to go next, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of teams in MLS that want to get one of the most lethal goal scorers in MLS history, and that, you know, even though Martinez, he hasn't been as good at the peak of his power a couple of years ago, he's still a guy that can score some amazing goals. And just look at all his substitute appearances. I mean, most of the time he's been able to bang into the back of the net, but here he tried to score another spectacular bicycle kick goal like he did just a week ago against New England, but he missed that one high. But yeah, there was no doubt Atlanta was pushing late for the late equalizer, and then Johnson had to rob Martinez on a point-blank effort. Again, Joseph Martinez, he was trying to score another late goal, trying to maybe drive another dagger into Atlanta hearts, and reminds the front office that, yeah, they probably shouldn't have burned the bridge on him for it, because he is still just a lethal goal scorer. But either way, it wasn't meant to be, as in the end, NYCFC able to pull off a 2-1 win on the road, as the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 12 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 5 shots off target compared to 7 that NYCFC had. 3 shots out was blocked compared to 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that NYCFC has in this game. And again, for NYCFC, with this win, they secured 3rd place, and for Atlanta United, yeah, there's going to be some interesting decision that they're going to have to make this off season, and especially with Joseph Martinez all but gone now with this team, and that I think we probably have just saw the last of him in a 5-stripe jersey. Anyway, moving on into the next game. I'll be drinking a lot of water because my voice is still kind of a little bit crackly. Not because of the game I went to. My voice was already having some problem when I arrived here. It's just it started to kind of be crackly again. So that's why I have a water right here on the floor for me to drink. But anyway, moving on in the next match, we will talk about Inter Miami versus Montreal, and again, writing down the timestamp here. But yeah, this was a game where it was pretty clear that Inter Miami, as much as I know they still had some home field advantage to play for in this one, and even if they win this one, it wouldn't have mattered, because, as I will talk about in just a bit, and actually in the next game, the Red Bulls actually won their game, so they secure home field advantage even if Miami would have won their game. But you just kind of had a feeling, you know, as much as there's still a shot that they can get home field advantage in this game. One thing I didn't mention is that, are they going to be suffering a big letdown in this one against Montreal, and also is that kind of playoff clinching resort on Wednesday against their rival Orlando City is going to cause a hangover in this one, because, you know, that was such a massive win, not only for Inter Miami, but probably the best win that they had in franchise history of clinching the playoffs, and the fact that they kind of had to get back up and play a game in 3 days against a Montreal side that they made history in this one. They become the first MLS team to win seven, or actually not 7 straight, but they become the first ever MLS team to win I think like 11 or is it 11 road games? I gotta look back at it, but I know they broke the record for the most road win ever this season in a non-shootout era. And yeah, this is an achievement that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. I mean, you know, Montreal, we know they were doing very well on the road, but the fact that they actually end up being the best road team in MLS this season, and also in MLS history, I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming. But that's kind of the case with Montreal this season. You know, as much as I know I've said that they are a dark horse candidate, they have smashed every objective that they have in that. You know, when you look at the Coach of the Year award, there's definitely a heavy case that Wilfried Nancy most likely is going to win it this season. But first, in the first half, Pentamis did deny Mota from long range before Kone missed a free header from close range in the 4th minute. But in the 5th minute, Kone would kind of make up for it, because he would actually get on the assist chart on Mihailovic's goal to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. But this was an absolute gift from Drake Callender. Yeah, this was not a moment Drake Callender want to look back, because he basically got a little bit too cute there trying to maybe dribble out. And this is the thing, when you're a goalkeeper, when you're trying to kind of maybe dribble it out, you got to make sure you do it correctly, because if you don't do it, if you took one too many touch, this can happen. Kone basically picked his pocket there. He feeds it right to Mihajlovic. It's an empty net. Easiest goal that Georgi Mihajlovic will ever score in his career. And yeah, that gave Montreal a 1-0 lead. Not long after, it would be 2-0 in favor of the visitor, as Lassi Lappeenainen would score for Mihajlovic to make it 2-0 in favor of Montreal. By the way, this was just probably one, if not the best game that Montreal has played this season. I mean, the amount of time that they were bossing Inter Miami, especially on the attacking end, and the amount of champagne soccer that they were playing, just some beautiful soccer that they were playing in this one, is just to show you why this team can definitely be an MLS Cup contender, because this build up from Mihajlovic to Lappeenainen was just something Man City-esque kind of level. And yeah, rightfully so, they got a 2-0 lead. It was almost 3-0 when Lappeenainen trying to score his second goal, but he hits it right to Callender before Pentemis did deny Lassiter from close range. So despite the fact that Montreal had some early opportunity, Inter Miami also had some chances too, but most of them were easily dealt with James Pentemis. Lappeenainen then had a curler that was clear off the line by Mabika, and yeah, if that one was not clear off the line by Mabika, it was in the back of the net. So some heroic defending there from Inter Miami, but really it was all for naught, because in the 36th minute, Kai Kamara would score here from Wanyama to make it 3-0 in favor of Montreal. I mean, Kai Kamara is just an ageless wonder right now. He is somehow still banging goals at the age of like 38 years old. And even though I know he has talked about eventually his career is going to be wind down either this season or next year, at the goal scoring threat that he is in right now, I kind of think that he needs to keep going. I mean, he maybe has at least 2 or 3 years left in the tank with the way that he's just banging goals left and right for Montreal this season. But as much as I said that it's been amazing play for Montreal, the Miami defense has just been completely ripped apart in this one. And again, a lot that may be due to the hangover that they had on Wednesday, but also maybe a lot to do with the fact that fatigue was clearly showing on this Inter Miami side, playing the third game in 7 days on this decision day. But we do head to halftime with the score being 3-0 in favor of Montreal, and in the second half there was not much happening in the first 20 minutes of the second half. The first chance came in the 67th minute when Mota missed it wide from long range. Then Mihajlovic almost made it 4-0, but he struck the post from long range. And again, Miami, they just look absolutely gassed. Like their defensive shape was just nothing as solid as what we saw in the last two game, and that Montreal was just they were showing no mercy. Though Gregory did have a chance in the 71st minute, but he hits one right to Pentemis. But in the 85th minute, Miami did get a consolation goal, and actually isn't a goal that they scored. It's actually Joel Waterman. It's one of those ones where, when you have a dangerous cross come in, that is like the worst nightmare to deal with if you're a defender, because you're trying to poke it out, but maybe sometimes you just poked it into your own net, and that's exactly what happened here. And Joel Waterman, very unlucky here. But yeah, it's the only damper in Montreal's great performance in this one, because after Mihajlovic hits one right to Callender, and it looked like Montreal made it 4-1 when Toy puts it into the back net, only for it to be disallowed because of offside. It was a dominant performance that Montreal has put, and really sent a message to the rest of the Eastern Conference that this is going to be the Montreal team that we're going to see. I mean, I think this was kind of the best we see from Montreal, but if this is going to be kind of like the team that we might see in the playoffs, watch out. This is going to be a very dangerous team, and a team that you definitely do not want to play in the playoffs. And especially, I can't wait that if we're going to get a Montreal versus Philly kind of Eastern Conference final, sign me up for that, because that's going to be very epic. And that, as much as I know a lot of people are saying the Union are still favored in terms of making it through to MLS Cup and coming out of the East and representing the Eastern Conference in MLS Cup, Montreal might have something to say about that. And it just feels like, both of those teams, if they are going to meet in a collision course, it's going to be tough to call who exactly is going to win that game. But in terms of shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 10 that Montreal has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that Miami has, 3 shots that was off target compared to 4 that Miami has, and in terms of blocks, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Montreal has in this game. But now moving on in terms of the next match, and that is going to be the New York Red Bulls versus Charlotte FC. And you know, the scoreline really didn't indicate the fact that Charlotte actually played relatively well in this one. And unfortunately, they ran into Carlos Cornell in this one. And you know, Carlos Cornell, he probably could have won if there was maybe the Goalkeeper of the Week award. He probably would have won in this one because he made some big save in this one. Because I'll talk about in the next video, we also had somebody that if there was a Goalkeeper of the Week award, he's definitely going to earn it. And we also saw probably the best performance by a goalkeeper in a single game when I do the Western Conference review in one of the game that happened in decision day. But certainly this was one of those 1-2 where Cornell just makes a big save time and time again to keep this Red Bulls team in front for most of this game, because they actually got the lead 8 minutes into this one, and it's Manel, the one that scores the opening goal. That's his first career MLS goal, and certainly deserved it too, because he's been trying very hard to finally break the ice, and he finally did in this one to give the Red Bulls an early 1-0 lead. But Rios looked to try to get an instant response for Charlotte, but he puts it right to Cornell, and then Cornell denied Santos from long range. And you know, it was a great response for Charlotte. They were looking to try to tie it up. Again, one of the thing about this team, even when they're eliminated, there's no quitting in Charlotte FC. This team has been playing very hard down the stretch, and even though they're eliminated and they don't have anything to play for, they were trying to maybe get a resort and maybe trying to spoil the resort in terms of the home field playoffs race. But in the 26th minute, Cornell did deny Schwedetsky from close range before Alfo hits it right to Cornell. Then Cornell denied walks off of a deflection, and again, it looked like this was another masterclass from Carlos Cornell. We know that Carlos Cornell could be that elite goalkeeper where when he is on, he is not allowing a single goal past his net, and he is basically doing everything in the first half to keep the Red Bulls in the lead. Though Lucchini has had a rare opportunity after when the Red Bulls took the lead in the 45th minute, but he hits that one into the side netting. But we do head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0, despite the fact that Charlotte had a lot of opportunity to tie the game up, and that would continue in the beginning part of the second half as Cornell would make another save, this time denying Rios again from close range. And again, another promising start for Charlotte, who was looking to try to push for the equalizer. Schwedetsky would hit one right to Cornell, but then in the 55th minute, the Red Bulls would double their lead, and guess who it is? It's Elias Manel scoring his second goal of the game and his second career MLS goal from Amaya to make it 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. And again, there's going to be a lot of goals I'm going to talk about this week that are definitely worthy of Goal of the Week nomination, and this is going to be another one of it, because what a goal this was from Manuel from outside the box. Hit an absolute missile that Cisiaga had absolutely no chance in terms of saving that. Though in the 60th minute, it looked like the Red Bulls were going to make it 3-0, but Morgan posted just wide from close range. Then Cisiaga had to deny Klimala from point blank, and again, the momentum seems like it was with the Red Bulls up to that point. Like that second goal, I think it really killed Charlotte hopes, because you know, up to that point they were playing well, but after getting score against a run of plays, that has to be very crushing in terms of just physically and also mentally. But in the 82nd minute, Cisiaga did tip Fernandez cross over, and that cross actually took a deflection, but Cisiaga was able to tip that one over, and then Klimala would pull it wide from long range, because Patrick Klimala is definitely one of the most snake-bitten number 9 in the league. Like, he just cannot buy a goal right now, and it's the reason why he's been kind of spending a long time on the bench lately because of that. But either way, the Red Bulls were able to pull out a 2-0 victory, only the 6th win this season at Red Bull Arena for the Red Bulls. But it's important too, because again, like what I talk about, teams that are struggling at home, or teams that maybe need some momentum headed to the playoffs, you know, getting a home win on decision day would definitely help that. But in terms of the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 9 that Charlotte has, 8 shots on goal compared to 6 that Charlotte has, 4 shots off target compared to 3 that Charlotte has. There was actually no shots that was blocked in this game, which I couldn't believe that was the case. I think this is probably the first game this season where we actually had 0 shots that was blocked in an entire game, but that's what it says on the stats. And the possession-wise, 72% possession compared to the 28% possession that the Red Bulls had in this game. But again, this is a Red Bull side that, you know, they don't like possession. They're a team that is more comfortable in terms of just kind of playing out of the back. So, you know, well, not playing out of the back, but more like playing on the transitional or basically pressing team and getting a short field. And while they definitely did not play well in this game, at least for the majority of the first 60 minutes of this one, they were the more clinical side, and that's in the end that's what you take. And again, the Red Bulls, they need to, of course, show that they have the ability to win at Red Bull Arena, because starting in the playoffs, that's what they're going to do. And especially in the first round of the playoffs where they play against FC Cincinnati, which I think that was probably one of the worst scenario for the Red Bulls to draw into their first round, knowing the fact that they're facing against a team that's very good on the road, and they're a team that's not playing at home, or they're a team that is not playing very well at home. But that's, of course, another discussion for another day. For now, they'll enjoy getting to the playoffs, and now are the sole holder for the longest active playoff streak, after I talked about before the Seattle Sounders had their longest active playoff streak come to an end just a week ago. But now moving on in terms of the next match. And the next match we're going to talk about is going to be the Philly Union versus Toronto FC. And, you know, I know the Union has been struggling in the last couple of games, and maybe there's going to be some people that have started to put a little bit of doubt that is the Union going to have their late season collapse like what we've seen before we have seen them being a dominant force in the Eastern Conference for the past couple of years. Well, after this game, I think the answer is a no. And, you know, again, I don't know how much you can look into the fact that they were playing against Toronto FC and TFC. You can clearly see they just simply give up after this one, because they didn't even show up for this one. But also, this is just the Union kind of reminding everybody that they are still the kings of the Eastern Conference after this season with this win, and that they are definitely going to be a team that's going to be hard to stop when they play in the playoffs this season. And their goal scoring or their free goal scoring ways kind of started early in this one, as in the 3rd minute, Gastek would score to give the Union a 1-0 lead, and what a volley of a goal that was. I mean, that was just again another goal that could be worthy of a goal of the week kind of contention, with him just kind of hitting this one off of a half volley. But yeah, that gives the Union a perfect start, and also that strike just to show you how confident that Daniel Gastek is. He's been a red hot striker, one of the best number 9 in this league, and a guy that, you know, in this game he was also chasing for the Golden Boot, and he actually came pretty close to it in this one. But another guy that has been in form too is Julian Carranza, but unfortunately he struck the post here as he went through on goal. It was all Union early in this one, and it felt like this could get ugly for Toronto FC. Gastek then puts a weak shot right to Westberg, but then in the 42nd minute, the Union would make it 2-0 as Mike O'Rourke would score from Gastek to make it 2-0 in favor of the Union. Beisel then cleared Benedeschi's shot off the line, as that was really the first opportunity that TFC has had, and they actually came pretty close to scoring if it wasn't for Beisel clearing that shot off the line. Though Flork would puts it wide from close range in the 2nd minute of stoppage time, and we do head to halftime with the Union leading 2-0, and looked like they were going to score more goals in the second half, and they do, because after Westberg denied Uru from close range, they had a chance to do so, as a penalty was given to them after O'Neal handballed this one in the box. Now, this was definitely a debatable one, because when I look on the replay a couple of time, it was very hard to tell in terms of whether or not if this indeed was a handball or not. I mean, I guess maybe they might have a better angle, because the angle that they've shown multiple times, I just couldn't tell. So I'm going to guess that maybe they got that one call right, but as I also talk about in the next next video, when I talk about the Western Conference review, we did have one game that had some very controversial call that kind of just brought me fears about what could happen on decision day. That, we talk about how inconsistent VAR and how refereeing decision has been this season, and we did have one game that had that, and that, thank goodness, that game was not really a game that has any playoff implication. Though again, you can maybe add this game into the case where maybe that was a little bit of an iffy call, but either way, the Union would take it, and Gastak would put away the second goal to make it 2-0 in favor of the Union. Not long after, he would score again, this time for the hat trick, as he scored in the 63rd minute, and also I believe that's his 22nd goal in the season. Obviously, one thing that I think I haven't mentioned before that I probably should have mentioned in the beginning of my review when I talk about all these games is the Golden Boot race, because the Golden Boot race is still definitely up for grabs. I mean, Hani Mukhtar coming into decision day was in pole position with 23 goals, but there could be cases that guys like Driussi or even Daniel Gastak can chase him down, and Gastak was definitely trying his best to do so, because he was now at 22. Well, he come in with 19 goals, but now he scored his 22nd, and it looked like the Golden Boot race was truly alive, because if Gastak can score his 4th goal, then all of a sudden we have a tie in terms of the Golden Boot race, even though I know that time maybe would be broken depending on if Mukhtar would have scored later on. Again, as I'll talk about in the latter video, where it turns out Mukhtar didn't score another goal. We didn't know up to that point. I mean, the Golden Boot race was definitely an interesting thing to see. But as that one made it 4-0 in this one, again, Toronto, they just looked like they were down and out. They were not interested in playing this one, and you just had a feeling that the Union, they're going to make sure they're going to pour it on, because that's what the Union has been doing this season. Though their next chance didn't came until the 90th minute, when Carranza almost made it 5, but blast that one high. I mean, Julian Carranza, this was kind of uncharacteristic of in a blowout. You usually see him on the score sheet, but he wasn't able to do so in this one. And the same goes with Corey Berg too, because you thought that Corey Berg, he has a knack in terms of scoring a late goal or the last goal in a blowout, and I thought he did it again here in the 90th minute, but he pulls it wide close, or he pulls it wide from close on the corner. But yeah, in the end, it was a dominant performance by the Philadelphia Union, and the shots in this one, 18 shots for this, only 6 that TFC had, 9 shots on goal compared to 1 that TFC had. Both teams had 3 shots that was off target, 6 shots that was blocked with the 2 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that TFC has in this game. But this was by far a dominant performance here from the Philadelphia Union, and again, a game where, as we head into the playoffs, this is also another team I do not want to face in the playoffs, and that if they continue to go in this free goal scoring form that they've been in pretty much for the entire part of the second half of the season at home, like they're literally in this second half of the season, I think they're like averaging 3 or 4 goal a game. I mean, I think this is a team that is going to reverse the problem that they had last season, because I remember last season the issue that they had in the postseason was they cannot score goals. I don't think it's going to be an issue heading into this season, and add to the fact that they have one of the best defense in the league. Again, this is a team that I don't think anybody wanted to face them in the playoffs, and also is a reason why I think right now they are the favorites in terms of coming out of the East and representing the East in MLS Cup this season. But that being said, moving on into the last game off this board is DC United versus FC Cincinnati, and this was a game where defense decided that they were not going to be part of this game. So it feels like every then and so we do have like a decision day game where there's just tons of goals that's being scored, and defense tends to not be found, and it looks like this is the game to do so. Though this is a big game in a way where, as I'll talk about in the last game of this review for the Eastern Conference decision day game, this game, along with the Orlando versus Columbus game, really decide the playoff race in the Eastern Conference. And coming into this game for FC Cincinnati, they didn't really need to do a lot to make it to the playoffs, but they just got to make sure that they do not lose in this one. Well, not only the fact that they didn't lose in this one, but they definitely put on a spanking on a DC team that, again, they look like they've been long checked out, just like Toronto FC. But in the first half, the goal scoring barrage started in the 6th minute as Lucho Acosta would score against Vasquez and Miazga to make it 1-0 favor FC Cincinnati. God, I'm starting to feeling that fatigue factor. I mean, I thought maybe I was gonna feeling that when I do the Western Conference review. I'm probably started feeling the effect a little bit now because I'm holding the board for a lot, and it is starting to getting to that point where, again, you know, even though it's only like 10-12 right now, been up since 8 in the morning, and that, yeah, you know, the fatigueness is starting to kind of show a little bit. But as I said, you know, Acosta, of course, scoring against his former team. Now, I mean, he kind of celebrated against his former team and kind of didn't. I mean, I guess maybe just out of respect, because, you know, he is a guy that he still will remember that, you know, he really made his name with DC United. So maybe that's why he kind of maybe half celebrated against his former team. But it's also a big goal with FC Cincinnati getting a dream start in a game where, you know, they didn't have to win in this one, but ideally they want to win so that they can clinch playoff position. And not long after, they would score again. It's Brenner scoring from Acosta and Barrio to make it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. And again, Cincinnati, they look like they want playoffs badly. Like the urgency that they shown from minute 1, it was definitely real. And this is kind of something that we'll talk about in the next game. That was not the case, but at least for Cincy, they were a team that was on a mission. They're gonna make amends that, you know, we know in previous seasons Cincinnati maybe have some big late collapse, and, you know, after the last game it looked like maybe that was coming back to the table, but no. Cincinnati was making sure that was not the case. They were off to a fast start, and again, DC, like Toronto, they look like they were checked out. They didn't even want to be here for the final game. And in fact, in the 24th minute, it would be 3-0 in favor of Cincinnati, as Brenner would score from Vasquez and Hagelin to make it 3-0 here. Though 2 minutes later, it would be 3-1 in this game, as Morrison would score from Jaffel to make it 3-1. Though this was a great goal for Ravel Morrison. Like, again, another goal that was scored from outside the range, another banger that was scored here, and he actually almost made it 3-2 too, just not long after, as he just puts it wide from long range here. Though on the other end, Ochoa did deny Barrio from close, and again, I immediately wrote, defense seems like they weren't going to be at this game. Like the amount of defensive forward throughout this game was pretty much non-existent throughout the first 32 minutes, and that would kind of continue as another goal would score in the 37th minute. And guess what? It's Brenner completing the hat trick in the first half from Vasquez to make it 4-1 in this one. That's the 3rd hat trick that Brenner has scored this season, and I think that is either tied for the most that a player has scored in a single season, or the most we have ever seen a player score in a single season. Yeah. It's safe to say that 15 or $10 million that FC Cincinnati got for Brenner, I think it was 15 million. That's worth every single penny now, because he is just a goal scoring machine on days that when he's feeling it, and he was definitely feeling it in this one. But what's also kind of a thing that I don't want to also forget is the fact that up to that point only, Brenner scored a hat trick in that one, but Vasquez was also recorded a hat trick, and in terms of hat trick, it's the hat trick of assists. And again, I just feel like you know, as much as I know we always talk about hat tricks of goals and how impressive that is, I don't think hat trick of assists is getting appreciated a lot more, especially with the way that, you know, Vasquez didn't just record a hat trick of assists. He recorded a hat trick of assists in terms of the primary assists. Like, sometimes maybe when you're in the secondary assists, maybe that might not be impressive. Here he was involved with the primary assist, so definitely a great day here for Brendan Vasquez. And though, you know, a goal scorer like Brendan Vasquez, he was definitely making sure that he's gonna also try to get on the score sheet too. But before he does that, DC did get themselves a second goal, as Christian Fletcher would score his first career MLS goal from Alfaro to make it 4-2 in this one. Again, another guy that, you know, getting his first start. Like, when you get your first career MLS start, you want to make the most out of it. You want to impress your new boss getting the start and why you deserve it. And a great way to do that is to score a goal, and that's exactly what Fletcher did here in this one, scoring his first career MLS goal to make it 4-2 in this one, though it was almost 5-2 when Vasquez actually struck the post from close range, though in the 54th minute he would make it get 5-2 and would score his goal in this one, as he scored here from Brenner to make it 5-2 in this one. And really this kind of came off of a terrible turnover from Alfaro, and just sums up the defensive play throughout this game. Like it was just non-existent, especially on DC side. In the 74th minute, Barrio almost made it 6-2, but he puts that one wide. I mean, Barrio is another guy that probably deserved a goal because he worked very hard to do so in this one. Though Salentano did make his first save in the 82nd minute, denying Durkin from long range before Baji did win for one goal, but he hits one right to Ochoa. And yeah, in the end, FC Cincinnati, for the first time in their franchise history, is moving on into the playoffs. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 9 that DC had, 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that DC had. Both teams had 1 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Cincinnati has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that FC Cincinnati has in this game. And overall, all this was a game that Cincinnati was making sure that they were not going to go back to their old self. They're going to make sure this is a special season. This is the season that we're going to finally make the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. And that's exactly what they did after an impressive victory and a result that, once again shows that this team, when they're on the road, they feel more comfortable. And now that they're going to be on the road as the 5th seed, and especially, as I mentioned, when earlier talked about that Red Bulls and Charlotte game, that was probably the worst matchup that the Red Bulls had, because when you're playing against a team like Cincinnati that has been very good on the road this season, and you're not doing well at home, that could be a popular upset pick in terms of what we see in the first round upsets that we could see we could see in terms of both conference starting next week. But that being said, I am now going to switch the board actually one more time and actually look at the pivotal game between Orlando versus Columbus, because with FC Cincinnati getting the win, there's only one more position left up for grabs in terms of the playoff race in the Eastern Conference. And who actually got it? Is it Orlando or is it the Columbus Crew? Well, the answer is Orlando City, because it's only fitting that Orlando City would come from behind to get a victory in this one, because they have been a team that, at least in the second half of the season, have known for their late heroic comeback. And it's also fitting way for the Columbus Crew to get themselves eliminated, because they gave up one more late goal to crush the hearts of Crew fans in the last 15 minutes. Like, it is just absolutely unbelievable that the Columbus Crew this season has been so bad in the final 15 minutes of the game, and that, again, in this one, it shouldn't be a big surprise that the winning goal that they gave up to Orlando City came in the last 15 minutes. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game didn't come until the 10th minute, as Urso puts it right to room, before the first shot for Columbus came in the 13th minute, as Crucho just heads it high from close range. As I thought Columbus had most of the possession early in this one, and Orlando, they were kind of elected to sit back and play on the break. But I thought for the first part of the 30 minutes into this one, it was kind of a tense game. Again, neither team really took too much risk and didn't really create too much chances, and that's understandable because, knowing this is a game that has a lot of playoff implication, and that, it's kind of like a winner-take-all kind of game. You knew that maybe the first couple of minutes it's going to be a little bit tense, but in the 30th minute, Mensah did heads it wide from close range. But then in the 39th minute, we did get ourselves the opening goal of the game, and it's Etienne Jr. that scored from Zarian to give the Crew a 1-0 lead, and all of a sudden they look like they were the one that is on pole position to make it to the playoffs. And now Orlando City, who was already kind of coming into this game with their backs against the wall, because they knew that they had to win in this game, depending on if the FC Cincinnati result doesn't go in favor of them, and it was certainly not in favor of them, because by this point it was 4-1 in favor of FC Cincinnati in that game against DC. So Orlando knows that their back is really against the wall in this game. They need to find a way to come from behind to win if they want to make it to the playoffs. The good news is this is the Columbus Crew, and this is a team that has always known to give up late goals, and I just had a feeling as we head into the second half, it seemed like it could be the case again, because, as much as, no Orlando had in their back against the wall, they were definitely piling the pressure early in the second half and was searching for the equalizer. And Columbus, they were in sit-back mode and trying to break the rhythm with fouls and slow the tempo of this game. That didn't work, because in the 56th minute, Orlando would tie the game up as Urso would score from Pereira to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And not only the fact that it is game on in Orlando, you knew the narrative is going to come, because you knew that on the broadcast are going to mention the fact that Columbus has a lot of problem in terms of closing out games, and I think they mentioned it a lot of time, but I immediately just wrote Columbus. They've given up the most points after 90-plus minute in league history, like 11 drop points this season after 90-plus minutes, and that's not even factor the fact that I think they drop almost the same amount of points or even more so in terms of how they've been giving up late goals after the 75th minute mark. Though they try to make sure that's not the case when Galace had to deny Cucho from close range. But then in the 80th minute, Rome actually denied Torres after Columbus was just completely caught napping on a quick restart. And that save, even though it forced a corner, it would have a big impact of how this game would turn out. Because in the 82nd minute, in that ensuing corner, a penalty was given to Orlando after Dagnan was penalized for handball in the box. And yeah, it was a handball there. You can definitely see that Dagnan, even though, I know some people say, well, when you're jumping, what can you do in terms of your hand? In terms of sometimes your hand might be in an outstretched possession when you're jumping. Well, unfortunately, that's kind of how the law of the game is, where, even if you're jumping, you need to try to keep your hands not in an outstretched position, and in that case, Dagnan did not do that. It's a clear handball, which gives Orlando the penalty. So here comes Facundo Torres with all the pressure in the world, a penalty to give his team not only the lead in this game, but pretty much swing the pendulum right in favor of Orlando City to make the playoffs, and he does. He buries it to make it 2-1 in this one, though Galace did deny Zairion from close range, as it was now Columbus the one that had the back against the wall, and they're trying to chase for the equalizer to move on into the playoffs. Now, there was also some confusion that was going on with the substitution late in this one, as originally they were going to try to bring Angulo onto this game, but then the referee actually gave Angulo a yellow card because he was never permitted him to sub on, and I couldn't think why exactly that is the case. I mean, Oscar Pereira was definitely livid on the sideline here, and again, I thought maybe it's because Orlando used up all their window, and that can't be it, because I looked back on the match feed on the app, and it says that Orlando have only used 2 windows and they only made like 3 subs, so that can't be it. So again, I think it must be when they decided to, how when they give like the paper to the 4th official who's going to be subbed in or not, they must have made a mistake there, because yeah, Angulo was not allowed to be on this game, and they kind of messed up in terms of substitution. Now, good news for Orlando, this kind of happened late in the game, because imagine if this happened like in the middle part of the game. Ooh, that would come back to bite them, especially if they didn't make the right substitution that could really cause havoc in terms of the tactics. Though, Columbus, though, late in this one, were trying to get some last gaps equalizer, because like I said, they were chasing to get the equalizer to get themselves in the playoffs, and it definitely was squeaky bum time at Exploria Stadium. Cucho would blast it wide from 19 yards out before, in the 5th minute of stoppage time, Galace would make the biggest save of the season for Orlando as he denied Zairion from long range. And yeah, Orlando, they hold on and able to get a come from behind win against the Columbus Crew, as the shots in this one, 8 shots compared to 13 that Columbus had, 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that Columbus had. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, 2 shots off target compared to 5 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Orlando City has in this game. And yeah, like I said, Orlando City, you got to give them a lot of credit. Even though down the stretch they have not had a spectacular run, and it looks like the backs were really against the wall in this one. One thing you know about Orlando City is that they somehow will always pull a magic. I mean, there's a reason why they're nicknamed the Cardiac Cats. This team will always find ways to get a winning goal, and they did so in this one, albeit they might give a thank you note to Milo Dene after this game, because if that handball didn't happen, maybe the late equalize or the late winner wouldn't happen. But for the Columbus Crew, again, it's just been the story this season. Like, they just cannot close out games, and that, again, we've seen before, when you don't close out games, you're definitely in serious trouble in terms of, even if you make the playoffs, that could be a problematic. And in this case, that was a big problem where, you just had a sense that when they gave up that equalizer, that there's a lot of, oh no, that is in the Crew fan base, because they know that it's going to be a matter of time before they blow it and give up a late goal. And again, it happened in this one. And now in this off season, there's going to be a lot of question that's going to be made, and that's all start with Caleb Porter, because you talk about a head coach that is under heavy fire and just in a very hot seat right now. It's got to be Caleb Porter. I mean, there's got to be sense that you could say that he maybe could be out of the job. And again, I said this about the Crew last season. Last season, as bad as things were, and they didn't make it to the playoffs, it's due to the fact with the cup hangover and also injury crisis. This season, they have no excuse in terms of that. In fact, I thought that this season they actually kind of got a little bit better. But again, these games where they have just blown late leads game after game after game, it's going to really hurt them this offseason, to reevaluate why that it always happened and how they can fix it. And again, it all starts with the coaching. Is Caleb Porter probably going to be back with Columbus? Because with how many blown leads like that, it's not a coincidence anymore. Like, a lot of that has to be based on coaching, and that Caleb Porter has always been one of the head coach that has not been the best in terms of closing out games, especially this season, and it's basically showing that throughout the latter part of this season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all of these Eastern Conference games. Like I said, I will of course have to do a review of the Western Conference game next, even though I am definitely starting to get a little bit tired, but I gotta have to do it before I head back home. Well, actually, I won't be heading back home just yet. I'm actually going to be going to New York tomorrow to visit a friend, but it's going to be a bit of an early flight, so that's why I kind of want to do this review a little bit early before I go to bed, before I'm going to be really tired tomorrow. But either way, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these Eastern Conference Decision Day game? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.